to however long your professional career is. It looks like it's a 2 decade long career, 25 years or so, but you have done absolutely loads. So it looks incredible rate of achievement. Like every 4 or 5 years, there's something big basically happens in that pathway. So let's start with that, man. I mean, like, do you have a sense of rhythm to your projects that you think I need to put it to a crescendo within this time frame and then boom, in or out? Or has it just worked out that way?
That's a great question. Actually, this is the first time I feel the pressure to do that after having looked back at the pattern of the past. And it is interesting that it went from 3.5 years to 3 years to 2.5 years to 2 years. It does worry me a little bit how far, what happens if that trend continues. The stress, I don't know if don't know if I'd survive the stress levels, but it is, yeah, it's been quite a wild life. I'm really fortunate. There's points in time in life where you do take a moment to look back and say, hang on, actually, I've had more than my fair share. And it was about 2 years ago here in Cancun, where I had an incident, a health incident, and I was on the way to a hospital, and it was low blood pressure, so it was actually very not stressful. I'm not in pain or anything else. But I did have a moment on that journey where I thought I wasn't going to make it, and where I was unable to do anything. I couldn't call loved ones or anything else, and I just had to kind of think, okay, if this is it, this is the time. And it was at that moment that I looked back and I thought, you know what? If this is the time, this is good for me. I've had more than my fair share of experiences of joys, of ups, of downs, of crazy, of good and stable and everything else in between. So I've been, yeah, definitely blessed with quite a long career. And of course, I think most of it's probably to my failing university. I won't say dropped out because I actually failed. I flunked out. Failing university is probably what was the catalyst that started the whole lot off, and forced me to kind of continue to do this over and over again.
Yeah, amazing. By the way, folks, if you hadn't had a look at Rod's LinkedIn, please do that. Because like every time you scroll, it surprises you even more because it's like, oh wow, I didn't realize he worked for that company, and oh, he's done this, and then it keeps on going. And now, sort of, you're telling me that maybe the very kernel of that was, as you say, failing at university. And I'm pleased you use that term, Rod, because I think we do need to rehabilitate it and strip it
Yeah,
away of the negative connotations and so on. I think if you have an objective, you don't achieve the objective, that's a failure. Doesn't mean you're a terrible person or a bad person or whatever. It just means that you didn't achieve what you thought you were going to do. That's normal. I actually used that phrase myself earlier this morning when I was a guest on another podcast, and I said, "Yeah, I failed at least 2 businesses. There's no question. Those businesses failed, but it's important to kind of grab that and understand you got to keep going on. So yeah, thank you very
yeah,
much, Belinda, for sharing that. Do check it out. Wonderful career. Tell me about the degree. I know it's ancient history now. You've obviously left that long
yeah.
behind. But can you sort of describe to us, what happened there? I mean, and why did you not actually get through that?
Yeah, I mean, it was abysmal, and I did. Thanks for that. I appreciate the commentary. I did want to make the distinction between failure and just dropping out, because a lot of people do find that what they're doing in university doesn't suit them, and they have a different idea, and they choose a different path, and it's over and over again. And actually, I've even encouraged people who've joined me and actually been the better for it, out of college, dropped out on their own. With encouragement, but on their own cognizance, and had a different journey as a result. But no, mine was a failure. I chose computer applications, computer science, early on, because I've always had an interest in tech and computers. And one of the reasons I chose this course was that it didn't just focus on the science and programming. It also, as I said, was slightly broader. So it had some business aspects, economics, law, management, things like these. So first year in, and the exams came, and I failed pretty badly, especially my attendance record wasn't great. I was working 3 jobs at the same time, two in fast food and one in convenience retail. So I think I was clocking in about 70 hours a week. I'd got a taste for money at that point and was quite happy to keep doing it. So my attendance at university wasn't great. So that was probably a contributing factor. I was hardworking, which obviously came from my parents and was valuable for that and happy for that attribute. But I came to the exam time, science and maths and everything else went great. I completely, in no uncertain terms, I really badly failed law, management, and economics. And so I could just sit and repeat them again, and I repeated them in the summer and still failed the same three subjects and over go. And then I think I had a shot at repeating first year and did the same thing. And yep, lo and behold, those same three subjects consistently. I think I possibly missed one or two others because of similar reasons. I'd lost interest at that point. So I had to leave. I had to find something else new to do, and I started a job. I actually one of my favorite jobs happened just after I flunked out. It was I had got a sort of internship in working with a small computer shop that would service networks, business to business mostly, not really retail, but we do handle people's networks in the early days. So we're back in 95 at this point. And I actually might have saw a newspaper, an ad in the newspaper, play with toys and get paid. I thought I've been a fan of the Tom Hanks movie Big, so I thought, oh yeah, this is perfect. This is just what I want. And I did. I got the job, and it turned out to be a toy demonstrator and show in stores for Christmas time. I have to say, it was an absolutely thrilling experience, especially going from being an introverted kid who was pretty shy and everything else, and then having to go and demonstrate and talk to every stranger who walked in the store. But it was an absolute, it was a blast. And that was that was probably the only job I think I've ever interviewed for in my life, which is very interesting because when I look back now at all of the businesses and everything else that I've done, I've taken the kind of experience as the front and center of my purpose, and I've done it over and over again, whether it be subconscious or otherwise. And I think I've been able to empathize really well with the candidate journey, the worker journey, especially in a temporary work kind of scenario. And that's been part of what I think has helped me a lot. But it's the irony, of course, is that I've only ever had to apply for one job, and the rest of them I had no choice but to do it myself. So I did earlier on. I had the first I thought, look, there's an opportunity here for the internet. I accidentally got a good friend of mine, Stephen Quinn, who's now living in Dubai, was my original partner. He came to me for some advice, wanted to set up a domain reseller business. And I thought, no, you should do web pages. They're going to be huge for the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to be booming, this thing. This is back in like November 96. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. He's going to do it with somebody else. His other partner dropped out. He came back to me and said, hey, look, why don't you do it with me? So he's like, yeah, okay, let's give it a shot. So that was the first business we did. And quickly we kind of built some tech for doing like job boards, looking at that candidate experience and the recruiter experience, and being able to kind of manage the jobs on an agency's website, which tech didn't really exist there. We're talking early 97. The tech didn't really exist back then so it had to be created. The idea of being able to use a database behind a website to update your jobs was kind of new. So very quickly we got a reputation in that sector. And of course, once, as most of you on this, the listening or here in Hung, I'm sure you know as well, once you get a taste for the staff in the recruiting sector and the humans within it, and the passion and the personalities and the characters and that's it just hooks you in, and that's what's kept me there all my life. It's the people in this industry that I started at, and that's the first foray. I never intended to do recruiting tech or anything otherwise, but I saw people that I really liked. I saw people that were trying to do something more important than just working in a bank or otherwise. They're trying to connect with people. They're trying to help people. They were trying to get people to see. They were the therapists of moving jobs. One of your most stressful moments in life. They are the de facto therapist to help you through that journey. So there's a lot of reasons why I got pulled into that, and I've never left since. So that's in one
No,
form or another.
That's it. And you did some amazing things. I didn't know any of that. I had no idea your first job was a toy demonstrator. And folks, if you know what that is, I mean, if you go to Hamleys in London, for instance, you get these guys who are just basically demoing these toys to hordes of the sort of giddily excited kids. And it does look like amazing fun to do. But yeah, I mean, that's a great way to break through a few things. I mean, you mentioned that perhaps you were quite introverted prior to that. You can't really stay introverted when you're interacting with 5-year-olds, trying to get them to get them enthusiastically buying kit or pressuring their parents to buy toys for them. So, how
Yeah.
very funny was that?
I think I hadn't grown up at that stage. I think I still felt like a 5-year-old. Probably was helped a lot.
And that's probably why you were great at the job, because you could still vibe exactly with the joy of it. Late 1990s, early noughties. I was kind of entering the world of work at the similar time, Rod. And that was Web 1 era, as you mentioned. Websites was just about coming through, big transformation period. It kind of does remind me to the moment we're currently at now, where there seems to be yet another equally significant, if not more so, wave of technology innovation that's going to be transformative in time. Do you feel the same? And what do you anticipate happening for business in this Gen AI enabled future?
Do you know that is actually probably one of the most insightful questions or comments I've heard from anyone in a very, very long time. You're absolutely right. That moment and the shift that happened in that moment, and for those that were around in any form, because we'd been building websites at the early stage, 97. Um, at that point in time, the majority of resumes and CVs were still sent and delivered by fax or post. I mean, 80% plus, even when the internet was around and people started having email addresses and so on. It was in the end of 97 going to 98, the switch started to happen. And inside less than 18 months, it had gone from 80% paper to 80% email in a really short space of time. And I don't think anything else has happened so quickly in the in this industry in its past. It's changed it so dramatically. It changed it so fast that the one of the things that I noted at this point in time was that, oh yeah, so you got all these people sending emails in, and the majority of CRMs, like the old bonded app CRMs and things that people were using at the time, didn't even have a field for email. We're talking about something that was that new, that
It's crazy.
you didn't have a place to put somebody's email address in your CRM, your ATS. So, which was of course what led me on to my next idea. But that point in time that change happened, and that change happened so quickly, and it was out of the blue. It was the internet existed, people were kind of using it. The bubble hadn't really taken off to doing everything, but email had started to be proliferate, and there wasn't a single catalyst or some job board or anything else that did this. It was a behavioral change of the people and seeing the opportunity to do something a bit easier and make it easier on themselves instead of posting or faxing and getting access to a fax machine, which most people didn't have. I mean, it just became that natural hey, this is easier. This suits me better. I can do this in my own time. I don't need to go to the post office at a certain time. I don't need to do this at a certain time. I can do this in my own time when it suits me, and I can do it easier. Nothing else since has really replicated that. It's mobile to a certain extent, but hasn't the same impact on the world of work and that top of funnel, that recruiting process so much. It has had a huge impact on the doing work part. We know that from the platforms, from those kind of the Uberization, the Tempo-D later on, and so on. But nothing else has really changed it so much. I think AI is doing the same thing again. I really, because of the same attributes. It is widespread enough that everyone can get to use it, that everyone understands it, that they've heard of it. It's kind of there in their breaths. The thing that makes it easier is that suddenly you change again the same thing that happened with email. You suddenly make the services that people want to get, the answers, the interactions they want to get. You now immediately make those 24/7 on demand when the candidate wants it. That's again the big shift. It's not a case of, oh, I've got a mobile, so now I'm contactable 24/7, which is actually my mother's bane in life is a mobile phone. She's like, I don't want to have people be able to contact me 24/7. I'm only able to, so I can contact other people. So I don't think, it's like the whole reason we think we have mobile phones is so that we can, for our convenience. But no, it's actually not. It's other people's convenience, so they can contact us wherever we are. If we're in the bathroom or doing something else, they can get to us. So that the thing is that with this, we now change that again. We say now that, hey, you know what? I can be in the bathroom and saying, doing my job search, and then I can actually chat with a recruiter while I'm still sitting there in 11 p.m. or whatever else. I mean, you can do it anywhere, and you can get meaningful results. You can get somebody to understand, to accept, to have a proper conversation, tell you more about the role, share more about yourself and how you fit the role, showcase your own skills the same way you would do a recruiter, and then that gets taken away. And like all good recruiters have done in the past, they've looked for the opportunity to sell that candidate into the client. They've looked at the opportunity where that candidate meets, where the client needs to, where their needs aren't met by the client, and they've looked to balance those things and communicate them. This is where AI fits in, and it can do it on demand. So that's where I think we're going to see again an enormous shift. It's not the fact that AI makes a single task easier. It's the fact that AI is changing it's giving people the ability to do things that they want, and get the outcomes they want anytime, on day and night, on demand, without taxing the resources of the hiring organization or the recruiters.
Yeah, and there's two things there: the ubiquity, the accessibility. Generally speaking, most people with an internet connection essentially have probably tried some version of AI already. That wasn't the case on mobile, by the way. Mobile, when the mobile phones came out, they were costing a huge amount of money. That this is a luxury good. It took a long time before the prices went down to the extent that people could afford them. And when it became kind of necessary to have a phone, was AI has gone low price point straight away, often free. And it's obviously better for lots of things. So you don't need to do the sales bit. No salesperson is pushing you to do this. You're experimenting with it, and it's like, oh wow, this is crazy. So I think you're right. It feels like it's the same way in the web era. It would be slow, 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 then fast, then everything, and it will be like instantly changing. Very exciting place, and of course, this is where you're now setting up a new business. We're going to talk about that in a bit, Rod. But I want to explore a little bit about career journey before we get to Glyde Talent. In terms of the businesses that you have developed and you've moved on from, like how this is quite interesting because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, even ones that are successful, can actually hang on too long, and they end up sort of grinding away. And you can see it in their eyes. It's like, oh my goodness, this person really needs to find for his or her own sort of well-being some way to get themselves out of this, and they seemingly can't, or they don't have the instinct anymore as to when it is time to go. How have you been able to pick the moments that you have? Is there a technique or a good instinct, or is there a framework or some sort of analysis that you use?
I think I go into everything with a pretty clear plan. I mean, I mentioned earlier when I started out with the CRM, with the web development business, and my first and earliest commentary was that this is a business that'll last 3 to 5 years before every graphic design agency is going to be doing it. So this is the point to make something out of it, enjoy it, and then move on. So that was the outs from the very beginning. It was a theory. It was a wild kind of look at the future and what that might look like and how this might progress. And that was just that was the kind of the focus on it. But I think the majority of the times, what's usually happened is, I mean, I suffer from ADHD, so very quickly, the challenges once the challenges to solve something that hasn't been solved or do something that hasn't been done. Once you've got through those proving points, and believe me, I'm spending a fortune in therapy to figure all this stuff out. So, once you get through those proving points, suddenly the challenge goes, and then it's like, oh, I can see a different challenge over here, and that's always been my marker, saying, you know what, I've solved the things I wanted to solve. I've proven that I can do this thing again, and it does come back to early childhood, was I part of the group? No, I wasn't. Did I find a difficulty, being accepted and things like that? Or did I fail at university? And then did I have to, for the rest of my life, prove that I deserved to actually succeed, even though I failed at university? This would be a repeating pattern. You get bored of there'd be no more challenges to solve, so the brain would start to get a little bit tired, a little bit bored. There'd be, I've proven what I needed to prove. I could have done something that other people didn't do. I started a new company, doing something new, something different, in a different way. I mean, it has been like web development back in 96, 97. There were five competitors in the country for us. It wasn't exactly a big industry. When I built Arathon, which was the ATS CRM cloud-based SaaS cloud, there wasn't another. There wasn't another SaaS-based ATS CRM in the market in the UK or Ireland. It was the first, the pioneer to say, "Hey, we can do this as a web app and serve it over the cloud and charge it on a monthly fee." And that was 1999 that started. So the
That's crazy
but
early,
again,
man.
it's like these things were, hey, nobody else has done it. Can I prove that I can do it and do it well? And then Glide again, it's like, hey, oh, this is interesting. They're not using this. They're not doing the top of funnel to and looking at how you make that experience better and faster and more and solve for the major black hole of candidates. They're not looking at how to solve this. They're looking at like transactional solutions. How do you make a transaction faster? But making a transaction faster doesn't make anyone's life better. Just because one part component of what you do is faster or easier does not make your life better. It's got to be the combination of different components and how you look at and how you change how they interact that changes things dramatically. A Amazon didn't make life better because it gave a web page for people to order online. Amazon made life better because they connected that web page with a warehouse delivery distribution system that got people their packages within a day or less. That's what changed life, not here's a web page, I can do my transaction on the web page, which is often missed. And I think that the products and things that when start to think about, okay, when I change one component of this, maybe the first facing point, maybe it's the customer interaction, maybe it's the candidate interaction, maybe it's some internal process. When I change this, what else can I change because I've made that change? What other opportunities do I have in this process, in this cycle, in this business model to change it as a result of that and reanalyzing the whole lot.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
really interesting perspective. It's the outcomes that matter for the user. It's not the toys at the beginning, or even maybe even something really clever that you've implemented that's technically cool or whatever it might be. It's not really the relevant thing. It's like, can you get the outcome that the people are looking for? And your analogy of Amazon is absolutely spot on. Thanks also for sharing sort of how you make your decisions, Rod, in terms of, when the next moment is. I think it's great that you have become aware of that, because I can totally see how your drive is coming from your need to solve the problem. But once the problem has generally been proven, like you've got a successful business, people are buying the stuff, it's like now optimizing and all the rest of it, then you kind of decide, you don't decide, the brain decides to move off in a different direction. The curiosity needs to be satisfied elsewhere. So that, for me, is a very convincing explanation as to your career so far. So yeah, fascinating stuff.
It's also great. It's also great in this industry in particular, and one of the reasons why I love it so much is that at every turn there is so much opportunity to make it better, because the people in it want to they have a desire to do what they're doing better, treat the candidates better, treat their clients better, make better matches. They have a desire to do these things. They just don't have the technology or knowledge, capability, or whatever it is to actually make the changes. But so once they see those opportunities, they jump at them, and that's what I do. Or what makes all of this easier. But there is so many, and if you think, and one of the I always look at, especially even on the agency side of recruiting, contingent recruiting, the amount of effort that gets zero outcome and creates zero value for everyone. is absolutely atrocious. If our governments worked with the same level of success and for effort, we'd have riots in the streets every day in every country in the world. For the amount of calls that don't get connected and candidates that apply that don't get a response, cover letters written, efforts in that get zero effort, don't get a response, don't even get seen. Recruiters trying to contact candidates who no longer even want a job, not answering the phone, all that thing, going back and forward, and to ultimately say, "Oh no, this candidate's not going to work for this job." And it's like that's the effort on both sides dead. All of this wasted effort, this wasted comes to zero. There's in many places in the process, and it's always there. There's always huge things to solve.
Do you know what you've just? It's actually a kind of a shocking scale. If you counted all of the effort, if you could put a number against the joules of energy, you could even, it is energy, the amount of energy being spent in the activity of job search or recruiting people for the world of work, and you put it at a global level, we're wasting a lot of human effort here. Like we should be going to Mars with all of this. If all of that effort was like better, it's almost like having a water pipeline where 1% of the water gets delivered to the people who need to drink it, exactly. And 99% is literally pissed out. It's disappeared somewhere. It's evaporated, wasted. Crazy
100%.
How
and accepted. Yeah. And it's accepted. It's like that's the way it is until somebody comes along and does something to change it. But it's that level, and it's more than 99 because it's actually it's more like 2x, 3x, 4x that. Because you have 100 applicants applying, it's their time. Then you've got the recruiter doing a review, and you've got a compounded that the ones that actually do have conversations and so on and so forth. And only one person gets hired. I mean, there's the outcome. That's it. And the remainder, all of everyone's combined time, all the way through the rest of the process, and the hiring managers review time. Now you've got 3, 4, 5 people involved, in each one contributing time, energy, money, advertising money, the whole lot. And yeah, it is absolutely incredible.
You can even put it in monetary terms, because I had a friend of mine who's on the job market, senior TA leader on the market, has been on the market for 9 months. And you're thinking, you know what, if you actually had her as a consultant working 9 months solid, like how much money would that actually be costing? That would be like an enormous number. It'd be 6-figure plus and more. And yet there it is, like completely wasted, burnt, because we haven't created a system that adequately found the opportunity. She finally sort of got the right job now, but wow, what a huge amount of waste. So
that's a great one. Actually, why isn't there one that says, "Hey, here's where you can do your job for free as your interview process," instead of actually not contributing zero? I mean, there's just while out of the box. It's like if you're going to do this, apply for jobs and try and do interviews and get zero responses, zero results, or anything else, you'd be much better off giving that time and effort for free to volunteer in somewhere. What about recruiting for non-NGOs or
you know what? Maybe there's there may be a business opportunity right there, Rod, because let's say you have a not-for-profit NGO sector, whatever social good thing that operates as the filter, right? That is your assessment function. But you donate your time for free to a cause of your choice, whatever you want, as long as it's part of this organization. Their job is simply to get your value, but also then to record your effort and contribution. And then that then goes to a corporate payer that may have the salary, may have the job that maps to your need. That seems to me like a very smart thing to try and do. Like, is everyone paying attention? Folks, someone go and build this. All you need to do is stitch these organizations together because they're already out there doing these things. And I think
raising money from those employers, the NGOs are raising money from those employers as well. So then there's a life cycle in that in itself. But
yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Maybe Rod's next opportunity is just to merge once Glyde Talent goes to the moon and back. Let's talk about. We're going to get to Glyde in a second, but let's talk about what you've learned as an entrepreneur and as a business operator in the last 20 years or so, Rod. Are there any things that you've changed in your management leadership style over that time, or is it just, have you kind of accepted, look, this is Rod, you're gonna have, this is it, you know, that you can't wrestle with yourself and battle to change? Anything that's happened in that period where you've corrected, or have you kind of come to a different conclusion?
Um, I, I, I have. I mean, I have, like everyone else does in that role. You have to try to learn and adapt and change. And I think I've changed a lot of things in how I uh, approach things. But I think fundamentally, my primary management style is is one of as one of just of a coach, but more less coach, more giving people freedom to do what they can do, to be themselves, to make their mistakes, and be supported with them when they make those mistakes. Um, that's I think one thing that I've always done. The one Because when I started again, this early first businesses, we were talking about web development, that it wasn't a skill you could hire. It was, it was a skill you had to teach. There weren't many people out there able to build websites or design and build websites. So you had to teach it, and we had to let people make mistakes, and so that's been the one thing that I've always held with. The thing that I've been previously very bad at, and I corrected over the years, is written communication and recording of documenting process, ideas, things, and feedback and everything else. I find that one of the most important things to do in any business, because you look at and ingrain that within the organization. How do you get knowledge transfer? How do you get everyone's first days of the job? How do you take an asset of that learning process and turn it into something that the next person will learn from as well? How do you make it ingrained through the whole organization? So I recognized that I wasn't very good at it. I was actually pretty awful at it. Probably the reasons why I didn't do very well in law and management economics in academics. Um, but had ended up having to do it all afterwards in real terms, in real life, many times over, all three of those. I've become good at them. The Yeah, it's the I didn't wasn't very good at writing documents, which meant that the knowledge transfer always had to be me. So the constraints for growth or expansion was always on me. And I would always, very frequently tell people, hey, I look forward to the day that you make me redundant, you fire me, you don't need me. That's my goal in life, is to be not needed in this organization. That's the simple goal I have. But I did learn that, okay, that was a miss, that was a miss for 15 years.
Yeah.
Or best part of 15 years. I didn't do that. I didn't have those activities. Um, the When we was forward though, and I started getting with tempo, I said, okay, recognizing that that's a failure, even though I'm not going to be able to do it to myself at this point in time, I'm going to make sure that that becomes a priority number one for everybody else in the org. So identifying your own weaknesses, where you have your gaps, um, trying to change them if you can, and if not, making sure that other people around you are filling those gaps properly, and they know that they need to fill those gaps that you have properly. That's the kind of the stepping stone towards then being able to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. You've got at that point, you then start, okay, like, how do I break those habits? How do I make my gray matter change and adapt to it? It thinks first about, when I'm doing this, how do I make sure that it's the next person coming along is going to benefit from this effort, this knowledge, this reply, this thought process, or anything else, this training piece, this coaching, this feedback, and and that's now become a critical part. I think the other part that I've learned very well at this point, is how to ignore like baby sounds in the background, things like that. especially especially since COVID came along.
Yeah, that's
We
Don't worry about that. Rod is wrestling away with a young family. And yeah, this is a perfectly normal thing. So say hi to the fam for us, Rod.
Absolutely.
Um, really interesting. You're an experienced business person now. Are you able to spot who would be a successful entrepreneur or not? Is there a quality that you pick out and think, you know what, this guy or girl has got what it takes, or not? I mean, how do you pick this? Is there a way to identify who would be a good entrepreneur?
Um, That's a good question. I haven't looked at my what my success or failure rate is in those. Unfortunately, it does bring to mind one person that one time that I personally did very strongly feel that about. And unfortunately, they just passed in the last few days. Very sadly, a Ron McCabe. From my first meeting of him, he was definitely going to make it. But I don't right now. I need to think about that one a little bit. And my condolences go out to his family. My sympathies go out to his family as well at this time. Sorry. Uh, the it's yeah. Occasionally, occasionally I would have a viewpoint, and very seldom would I take a view that I saw somebody who was going to definitely succeed. I think the what it usually comes down to is, do they have enough passion to understand um, and want to solve the problems of their customers and the people they're interacting with, or are they trying to create a business to succeed as a business? Do they have enough passion in the problem that they're trying to solve, and who it affects? And if they have enough passion in the problem and who it's going to affect, they can be very successful. Um, the and that's their I think that's the first trait that I would always look at, saying, hey, where does their passion lie? Does their passion lie in building a business and making the sales of software, or does it lie in where the problem is that they're trying to solve and how it impacts other people, both their prospective clients or anyone else that's going to interact in that, or that they're going to interact with. And I think that's the fun of it. And sometimes that could be, look, they want to do something because in their community they want to create employment, and maybe that's it's just as good a driver. And it doesn't matter what the product is, but they have to have that a very a clear reason and a passion that's not about just creating a business. It's got to be about solving somebody's problem,
Yeah, and
somebody else's
fundamentally
problem.
that's the motivator, isn't it? Like you need to have very strong motivation because of course you're going to encounter adversity in doing the path of entrepreneurship. And of course you encounter adversity as an employee also. I mean, that's not a walk in the park, but it may be fair to say that the adversity is more predictable as an employee. Like you kind of know generally what you got to do and
Yeah,
what future problems might occur. Whereas entrepreneurship, you kind of been you can get like basically sidelined or you T-boned
yeah,
anytime. It's like you have no clue what's happening, and then you've got to just immediately think, right, am I knocked over completely, or can I get up and keep going? So yeah, you got to be prepared to have that kind of bounce back ability, I think.
and that's where having the very clear problem you're solving, who you're solving it for, lets you bounce back up. Because invariably, the problems that knock you over are the ones that are distracting you away from the problem that you're trying to solve. If you stay very laser focused on, here, this is the person that I'm solving a problem for, that I'm making their life better, this is my purpose. And whatever way I'm going to make to whatever problem I need to solve to make their life better and make it work and make it easier for them and improve this. I'll figure that out along the way. And that's what makes you get back up again, because you haven't been knocked off that they've said, "Oh, I don't want that problem solved." And that's the only thing that'll take you away from that path. If the person you're trying to solve a problem for, or that group of people, or that who says, "Hey, this is not a problem I want solved. I don't want you to solve it." Then you'll get that. That's the T-bone that'll knock you over off that path. But otherwise, not much is going to deter you from making that happen. That's where I go for it.
Yeah, very good. So what was the problem that caused you to come back again? I mean, for people, actually, we should just put some context on this. So tell us where. So you and I met first during the Temp Buddy days. I was doing workshop at the time. You were doing a Temp Buddy. By the way, you're looking at someone who failed on the startup side, someone who succeeded here. So here's a sort of a nice framing of that. Tell us sort of the exit on. So you sold Temp Buddy to Bullhorn, I believe it was. Was it Bullhorn? It was, wasn't it?
Ultimately, Yeah, we sold it first to private equity, and then as part of that deal, there was a roll up where the strategy was because I mean, Tempody was a successful failure in a sense. The I was never able to raise investors money. I've always been really poor at getting people to invest in any of my enterprises from all the way through, despite the successes and so on. And Tempody was running out of cash and had the success. The product was fantastic, the adoption was great, the people that was solving a real problem, but the we were running out of cash, so we had to do something. And it got to the stage where all of the conversations they were having for trying to get investors, there was little interest in that, but everyone said, "Hey, but we won't invest in you in your company as a minority, but we'd like to happily buy it." So everyone was saying, "We'll buy you, but we won't invest in you." So I'm thinking, this doesn't make sense to me. Why am I getting the one offer I did get, put the valuation of the company lower than the same offer I had, a simultaneous offer I had to buy the company at twice the price. So they're saying, okay, hang on, I put a minority investment in here for this valuation. And I'm saying, but these other guys are offering me twice the price to buy it today. How are you saying my valuation is lower than they're offering me to buy it at? That just doesn't make sense. Anyway, it became that conversation repeated. So it came, I'm not going to be able to raise the funds. I'm going to have to do an exit. Let me see what's out there. So we ran a process, and it came down to Bullhorn was in the mix and a few others, and it came down to private equity, Symphony Technology Group, had a strategy. They said, "Hey, we want to acquire, bond, adapt, and build a platform here and consolidate some platforms." And we see Tempody as being a really key element to that strategy because it's the future piece of technology that we can add on to these legacy platforms. I said, you know what, I'm buying into that. So we agreed that in April. Yeah. So it just happened like literally as my daughter was being born. Um, this happened in the delivery room, like the that's the truth. True story. I'll tell that one a different day. But they agreed that we did that deal. Of course, then there was a battle to take Bond, Adapt, or Bond International, which is the Adapt product suite, and that private. Took a lot of months to get through that. But it did mean then that I took over running kind of product, technology, marketing, and general strategy on a board level for that group. Then we had to make a lot of changes, rationalize that change that company quite a lot to ready it for growth, and we did it successfully. We very quickly turned it into a fast growth machine based on the product strategy, the product combinations, and where we were going. And the team, even though the smaller team, because naturally private equity likes to take costs out, we had a much better environment, a much better culture going into that. We managed to correct that very quickly across the product engineering and everything and sales groups. Um, and then the next phase of that was to acquire eRecruit, which had a very good strong name in the US, was winning all of the enterprise clients. Had its own challenges, and but had great opportunities, and combine those two entities again, of course, leading through that, and a few changes of CEO along the way to finally land on one in the late 2017, who was Dominic Galello, who was a absolutely phenomenal CEO, phenomenal leader. I learned a lot from him as well in terms of doing the right things, time management, and it gave me a lot of skills that I still use to this day. But a very, very, very great person, kind of being focused on what we're trying to achieve and getting there and getting the whole team aligned to it and getting through any of the barriers to make us succeed. And we did. And we brought that whole group together, started winning substantially more of the deals than anyone else on the sector. Such to the point we had the conversations we had with Bullhorn, and we exited that in 2019. So for Symphony, it became a success. It was a private equity group. It was the fastest exit they had in their portfolio ever. It was also the first to achieve the IRR target, the investment rate return target. So it achieved target at the fastest time ever. So they were very happy. And actually, and so were most of the others. Unfortunately, Tempody's days were numbered as as a challenge of shifting what and or merging those two technologies, the one that was deeply ingrained in understanding the nature of temporary work and shift allocations and shift planning, to one which really had no concept of shifts. Merging those two together was definitely a challenge for the organization. But yeah, that was sadly the end of life for Tenbody just last year after good stint. But it created a new category of product. I'm pretty proud to have been part of that. That since there's still been many more that are in that space and continue to be in that space. So I've been pretty proud to have been part of creating an entire category of product.
No, absolutely, and in fact, sort of that it actually, now that we've shared some of this conversation, it makes more sense because you're always very future focused. And it doesn't surprise me that everything you've tried has been 3, 4, 5 years ahead of the mainstream. And you know, people are talking about contingent workforce now. A lot of investment going into the contingent side, whereas previously it was all FTE. You know, it's very exciting to hear. So this brings me on to what you're doing now, Rod, because you know, if you are still the person that's able to see what the future looks like, we're all excited to understand a little bit more about Glyde Talent. Where did this idea emerge? What is the core proposition? Could you like explain it in a sentence or two to the audience that might not be familiar with Glyde right now?
I mean, the simple terms of is taking AI to reimagine the top of funnel in recruiting. Yeah, I think it's more important to think about what got me to this thinking, and as I mentioned earlier on, years and years, the pattern has been, how do I make the journey of a candidate and their candidate experience better from what it's been before, whether it be building websites where they can search for jobs, whether it's the building the CRMs that have, you know, can interact with their email, whether it's the Tempbuddy, which is the mobile first, letting them control and be deliver jobs, not just, you know, blast of 100 text messages where they've got one in 100 chance of getting the job, making that more sensible and scaling it out so you've actually be more respectful of their time. And every time, over and over again, it comes back to the same thing. It's how do I make that experience better? And for a long time, the one that because I had a stint in between is running founding Shift Fillers, which was a light industrial staffing firm during my non-compete. I couldn't do technology, so I had to do staffing firm with technology. The thing is, seeing and knowing over and over again that this black hole existed, because building CRMs and being close to customers and recruiters and ATSs, you see the volume. The volume is there, and the habits are there. You see the volume of applications. You see the recruiter can't look at them all and looks at a fraction of them. And then everything after that is discarded and ignored. And they're ignored because there isn't enough time. An interesting constant that we found on the recruiting side and staffing recruiting side is that a recruiter can have between 9 and 12 conversations a day, and that's it. It doesn't matter what sector you're in. If you're in IT, there are more taxing conversations and mentally taxing conversations. If you're in light industrial, it's the volume of trying to connect to more people they don't answer and so on. And for whatever reason, this constantly exists, and it's pretty steady across all industry sectors, which is kind of amazing. But it does mean that there is a limited capacity. And all of these applications that we're seeing more and more applicant volume grows and grows and grows. And everyone is shouting for, oh, we need more applicants, we need more applicants, we need more candidates. And it's not actually more applicants. They say they need more candidates, but it's usually because the application flow is coming in and they're only able to pick a few from that each time. And if the responsiveness isn't there, then the candidate will drop out, won't be interested anymore, will get a different opportunity. And there's a lot of factors because we're not moving things at a pace. And communicating back and giving feedback back to the candidate, they're not going to hang around. So you compound all these problems by throwing more mud at the wall, and it makes the problem bigger and bigger and bigger. And everyone's been doing that for the last couple of decades. They've been throwing more mud at the wall and asking for more candidates, more applications, and ignoring the fact that actually that they're doing is they're afraid asking people to put effort into applying for a role that they don't actually necessarily want to do. When somebody applies for a job, they want to find out more about the job. They don't want the job. And everyone has to remember that very clearly. And I think that gets forgotten a lot in the process, because what happens in the process today is that when people apply for a job, it's assumed that they want the job, even if they don't know much about it. I mean, a one-page blurb that's written by probably the same one that's been written for the last 6 years doesn't describe what the job is or everything else about it. So to assume a candidate wants that job after seeing like a little one-pager is kind of naive in my mind. So the first part is you assume they want the job, and then we create these gating questions where people stumble into an offer. It's like, are you within 15 miles of this location? Yes. Are you able to add 1+1? Yes. Are you able to use this? Yes. Like, okay, here's your offer. And you kind of thinking, well, hang on, I didn't actually, I just answered yes, yes, yes. I didn't actually say that 15 miles suited me, because my current workplace is 5 miles away. I don't want to travel 15 miles, for starters. Or, it's, and yeah, I can do Excel and add one-on-one, but actually my passion is in, customer service or sales. I mean, I don't want to use those skills. Where is this kind of going to suit me? But that's what we do. We say, hey, here's a volume of candidates, put gates in that they can stumble over until the point where we think, oh, this is the candidate for us. And actually, we have no idea if we're the job for them. And that's recruiters do come into that play, and they have those conversations, and they do try to tease that out. But unfortunately, the you know you need to do it to every candidate, because you can't just take the select few that you think, oh, they've got the right skills, because they may not want to use those skills again in this next job. They want to use different ones, learn new ones, whatever else. So there's a lot of different angles in that make a big difference. So when I look at this and I see that problem, and I see the habits, and it's not a recruiter's fault in any sense, because like I said, there's just too much volume. It needs to be thought about differently. You take those 100 applicants, you review very quickly. You might get to review 50 to get a short list of 20 to try and reach out to have 8 conversations, have meaningful conversations, to put forward 3 candidates to hopefully that's your funnel, but you have ignored most of them. And then you take all those candidates, you drop them into your ATS, and you say, hey, I've got loads of candidates in my ATS. Why don't we use these candidates and try to get them jobs, and try to get out to them, to ask them for referrals, and you've ghosted them for the first part. So actually, they don't like you anymore. They hate you. The first thing they think of, they get an email from you, is either delete, or how do I say this to social media and complain about this person who now asked for the help when they ignored me when I applied. That's the thought process that's gone through in most people's heads, and that's so you start thinking, hang on, if that's the status quo, and it's failing the candidates in every sense, and it's not serving the recruiters any way better, because they're doing the best they can. What can we do to make that change that and say, let's not make this a problem. Let's make this an opportunity. Let's make this the biggest opportunity you have that's occurred in decades. Because if you have 100 applicants, and if you give each one of those a good experience, answer the questions they have, let them make the choices, make them opt in, take the decision bias, use the decision bias in favor of them moving forward, turning up for the interview, turning up for the role, and so on. If they actively choose to move forward in the process, they are more likely to turn up for an interview. They are more likely to turn up for the role, because they're actively making that choice to take it, not stumbling on into the next stage. And you use those elements. You say, hey, let's be human. How do I want to be treated as a candidate? I want to know the answers when I apply. I don't want to wait 3 or 4 days to get an autoresponder, and treat them like you would want to be treated. And then what happens is, not only do you actually get a great result because you've touched lots of people, and with Glyde does, and gives them meaningful feedback and tells them, here's what you're going to use in this job where your skills match to it. Let's have a conversation, have a really open conversation with the candidate using AI to share information, also gather information, then give them feedback saying, these are the reasons why you're probably not a fit for this, and give them that feedback. But do it all inside an hour. Like, do it from applied to qualified in an hour. You don't need to do spend 3 or 4 days getting somebody through that first part of the funnel.
Right,
And
hang
then,
on. So the prop that I just heard there, from apply to qualified in 1 hour. That's basically a high level promise that you're making with Glyde Talent, and you do that basically with some sort of AI interviewer or some sort of way in which you're having a conversation with any applicant that comes through. They're able to interact with some entity that can give them information that they need to know whether they want to continue in the job.
yeah, like we make this process really simple. It's like when they apply, the first thing we do is we look at analyze the resume and analyze what their past conversations they've had with the AI and any other information we have. We match that up against the job spec, the role, and anything else that the client or hiring manager requirements would have added that are not published. And we match the two up and we say, okay, this is where the candidate fits those things. Let's respond back to the candidate within a minute, 2 minutes, under 5 minutes, but definitely within a minute. Send back a response to the candidate and says, hey, we got your application. Really appreciate you applying. You can see that from your resume and conversations, these are the skills that are really relevant to the job that we have here. And we've attached it again just to reference the job spec that we're looking at. These are the skills that you have that are relevant to this. Let's have a conversation. Chat with us now on our virtual recruiter and have a conversation to find out more and share some information. We get a conversion rate between 55 and 80% going from apply to actually having a conversation with AI. And then the AI conversation is designed to say, okay, we don't need to ask the questions about what we know already. That's like any good recruiter is going to check their notes and say, well, I don't need to ask the candidate to at least attend university because it's here in the notes. So I'm not going to ask that. So the AI, we do the same thing with AI. We say, hey, if you know something, don't ask the same question. So let's create a personalized agenda for this candidate and talk to them like a human. Say, hey, that's really good. I can see that. Tell me a little bit more about how you did that. Tell me why this is important to you. Here's some other things. Are these things acceptable to you in these terms? Is this something you're happy to do? Is this commute something you're happy to do? Is this what you're looking for in these areas? And have that recruiter conversation immediately. And then at the end of that, give the candidate and the average at the moment is 42 minutes from apply to qualified across the platform. But then give the candidate back the feedback saying, hey, these are the skills that you really struck us out as being important and really meeting the job's needs. We're trying to get a recruiter to talk to you as soon as possible. Or, hey, it doesn't look like you're probably not going to get a call back for this position at this time because of this and this and this specifics. Give feedback because that's what the candidate wants. I mean, they may already, part of the feedback might be that, hey, you told us you don't like the commute time, so that's one of the reasons why you're probably not going to get a call back. And that's great because they made that choice. And we do that. And that's what Glyde does. But what it does also do is when you solve that and you give every candidate that experience, instead of those 100 candidates going into your database that 80 of whom actively hate you, you now have 80 candidates going into into your ATS, into your database, where you have more information about them, who like you, who like the experience that you've given them, you've been respectful in their time and their application and their process. And now when you go out and say, hey, do you know anybody that might want to do this job? Or refer me somebody else or do something like that? Or, hey, buy my product that I'm selling. Don't boycott me for life because my recruiter didn't respond to you. Go buy my Nike product, don't go to a different person. And you can do all of that. And so when I look at this problem, we start to say, that's the thing we say. We say, let's change that entirely how that works. And then when you use that data, that's just the tip of the spear piece. Because when you use that data and that qualified number, you can start then adjusting based on the targets and based on what you need to either have a consistent flow of candidates coming in that are qualified. So I want five qualified candidates a day because it's a churn replacement every open job. I want 5 qualified candidates a day. So it's a setting in Glyde because we can control the top of funnel, and the advertising turns on, turns off, turns on, turns off, so that you get that balanced 5 applicants a day. Or if it's a one-off hire, I want 20 qualified applicants for this, and then turn the job off, so you don't disappoint more people than you need to do.
So there's basically 2 questions, Rod. So there's also an acquisition side. So it's attached to a job ad fundamentally. So there's a way in which people can generate it. But applicants go to the job ad, they will interact with Glyde, and they'll interact. Is it with is it with voice, or are you going to do it on chat or SMS or email? Like, what's the primary way in which you're interacting with the
The
candidates?
prime the primary is chat. We do have voices backup, but we're still the voice has to be some of the stuff has to be pre-generated and then fillers, so it's not as natural as
Mm.
the chat is. It'll come. I would have predicted that at the back end of this year, the voice will be at a level we can have the same quality of conversational.
Yeah,
Not in terms of the voice quality, but in terms of the actual dynamic conversation.
yeah, maybe the candidate might want a choice there as well. It's not always the case that they want to
Yeah.
have dialogue. If they're, maybe in office, they could get away with chatting on IM rather than voicing a call, and vice versa. Someone else might be out on a walk and trying to do it that way. So the mode will change, and then basically, and I love the idea that once you've had that interaction, of course, you've got a lot more data than you have than just the CV. You have actually got some interactive information as to what this person really wants. It's about sentiment, really. It's about the suitability of the job and so on. And presumably, at some point, you'll be able to match them to alternative opportunities if the primary one isn't a suitable fit.
Yeah, well,
So
this is where the longer term happens. That you see, you start off with this kind of interaction and making that conversation human, and you add some data, and then you've got for subsequent conversations, you get more and more data around that candidate and their preferences and what's in their life, what's happening in their life in different times, and then you can, of course, when you start touching on what's happening in your life, I'm moving house, that's why I want a new job. I'm not living there at this time. So all of these things then you start taking to the next step, which is, well, hang on, let's be a bit proactive about this. Let's reach out and say, how did the house move go? How does this? What about this? Oh, I see your colleagues in your old company are moving to this space, or I see this is happening in your area. Be proactive. So then the AI
yeah,
can be proactive. And then when you start having proactive AI, what do you actually have? You have relationships, and you've built
yeah,
relationships at scale. And for me, that's where I see the whole AI generation. I think we've seen movies over and over again, like Her and everything else, but uh, AI will create relationships with humans. Or humans will create bonds in relation to AI because it'll adapt to their needs. It'll have its own personalities as well, but they'd be similar. They'd be compatible personalities, and
yeah. I'm
that will
actually excited
that's
for that future. I mean, it's. I can understand people being disturbed by it. It's certainly not unambiguously, positive, so to say. But what is, like, we have to get used to the idea that the world isn't a fairy tale of good and evil. It's a case where context matters, different motivations matter, and actually, one thing, whatever that thing is, could be turned to good or evil depending on who's using it. So that is the future. Where are we with Glyde at this point, Rod? Is it out there? People can use it, or are we in beta phase? Like, what's the situation here?
No, we're out there with customers with the entire product line that I've mentioned, all of those components from the job distribution, posting, the media management, through to the application handling, the screening conversations and feedback, and even that ability to throttle up and down the volume of qualified applicants you want and for a consistent basis. So each one of those is game-changing pieces of features, technology that don't exist before. We monitor channel quality real time, all of these kind of things. So that's all live with customers. Primarily focused in the US. It's the easier, the more local market for me at this point, and one I've actually, it's a sizable enough market. We also handle customers in other places where we haven't gone down the road of this to we say the production ready with is all of the different languages. So an English
Yeah,
language
yeah,
is great. The AI will handle and does handle very well every other language. Um, However, we're not out there saying that, hey, it's multilingual just yet. We want more data to
yeah.
prove that.
Yeah, fantastic. And what is the sort of ideal customer profile? Is there a type of business that you're finding that actually this lands well, particularly well with?
Yeah, it works really well with SMBs thinking of having like one, two recruiters, or if they have one, or they think of hiring one, or another one. That they work really well with that. You need having one human recruiter, and then like thinking, oh, I'm going to need more. and actually it works great for accelerating that and allowing for seasonal balances and things like that. So it ramps up and ramps down and it allows you kind of say, okay, this is my team, my recruiting team. They stay. Seasonality is not going to affect them. I'm not going to have my cyclical business is not going to affect them. It's not going to be, we've got a booming hiring, we've got to hire loads of recruiters, and then, oh no, the economy's tanking, we got to fire all the recruiters. It creates so much balance in that and makes everyone's job a lot easier. On the other side of the staffing and recruiting agencies, I mean, everything from whether they've had 15, 20 people upwards, if they're on a Bullhorn or an Aviante ATS, or if they're on an Ashby ATS, we've integrated with all of those, and we'll continue to kind of integrate with others. So it's recruiting and staffing firms, 15, 20 people upwards, on the Bullhorn or Aviante ATS would be ideal, and then SMBs typically on direct corporate.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. This is very exciting indeed. I've had some touches with technology of this type, and I'm basically a truther on it. I think this is going to be pretty much a mandatory way in which we're going to do a lot of recruitment. So fantastic that you're ahead of the game as usual, Rod. Okay, listen, I've already bled huge amounts of your time today, Rod. I don't want to take any more than I deserve. What busy things have you got after this call, Rod? What CEO type activities do you need to be doing after we finish here?
My next lineup is actually I have to register. I've moved to Cancun in Mexico. So my next lineup today, I've got to go into the local administration office and start registering for a few different bits and pieces. But outside of that, most of my day is advising. Yeah, it's advisory at the moment. So with some industry analysts, I've been to do some advice for. I'm advising a small startup. I'm advising another group that does industry roundtables. So the leaders of that in terms of what we're doing. And yeah, so that's the majority of my day today, as it happens. And then just the usual coaching people that are around me to do their best and have fun.
Fantastic stuff. Rod, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, man. Thank you so much for coming on to Founders Focus. Absolute delight, and great to get to know you better. It's really filled in a few sort of gaps in my mind with regards to your journey so far. So I look forward to your seeing and supporting your future success. So great to see you, Rod. You have a very good day, man.
You too. Thanks very much. I look forward to seeing you down in Cancun very soon. When you come
count on it. I haven't been to Mexico for 20 years, so I'd love to come visit, man.
Please do. Yeah, the spare room is ready. We'll be ready for you. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you.
Wasn't that great, folks? Roderick Smythe, Roderick Smith, even. I don't even know whether he pronounces the with the E on the end, but what a fascinating figure, and absolutely a product I think we should all be very excited about, even a category we should be excited about. How do you describe this? I think it's going to be an automated pre-screening tool. I think that's the next sort of mainstream category I'm going to jump on. I've got it right sort of so far. Interview intelligence, everyone's on it. In sort of automated scheduling, everyone's on it. I think the next big thing is going to be automated pre-screen. Very exciting stuff. Okay, everybody, that's it for Founders Focus. We're going to be back tomorrow with Brain Food Live on air. We've got another amazing guest, another Irishman actually. It's Johnny Campbell, who had the pleasure of having breakfast with just yesterday. We're going to be talking about skills-based hiring. Johnny Campbell, of course, is the CEO of Social Talent, the leading training and upskilling platform for talent acquisition recruiters. So he knows everything there is to know about skills that are required, and how does this now play out in the world of skills-based hiring. So fantastic stuff there. We'll be there at 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. We'll be back also next week. I think we're going to keep rolling forward with the Founders Focuses, and we'll have Dina Babe, CEO of Pitch Me, onto the show as well. If you enjoyed this type of show, make sure you follow the channel. If you're watching on Crowdcast here, if you're watching this on LinkedIn or anywhere else, you can follow my page on LinkedIn and you'll be updated whenever we go live. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody.